Alrighty, let's get intimate. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Chad. I feel good today. I ended up taking a JLPT practice test and was getting like 70s on every category I was doing. So I think today's the day. Today's the day we go over my entire history of learning Japanese, what made me start, because I did not always want to live in Japan and speak Japanese. Kind of how I progressed through it. Did I go through it like a champ? Did I whittle up in a ball and die? And more or less how I'm doing now. And I had someone 2 weeks ago ask me in the comment section, I'm very sorry I couldn't find your name. I don't know what happened. Chad, why don't you tell people about what got you into it and the journey that was going around it? And I was like, well, isn't that what my whole channel is? But then I realized I've been doing this for 5 years. There's over 300 videos on this channel. I can't expect people to follow all of it, especially since I can't even watch a lot of my early videos because they just... I know cringeworthy's one of those words that I hate using because BuzzFeed ruined it, but it is true. And a lot of you guys are new, to be completely fair. Some of you guys, came along throughout the way and dipped out and came back in. Maybe you guys are pretty new to me and you're not aware of the story that came with how this channel is doing what it's doing. I figured maybe today's a good day to kind of talk to you, a little less edited, a little less polished, just about what I am and how I do it and why I do the things that I do. So it probably would surprise a ton of you guys to know, hey, I did not always want to study Japanese. In fact, up until after high school, I think I was 19, I really had no interest in learning Japanese, particularly over any other language. In fact, when I graduated high school, I kind of saw through the matrix. I didn't want to go to college because I saw that there weren't really jobs afterwards. All my friends who were graduating had no job outlooks, and a lot of them were waiting tables, but they also had a ton of debt, so I was like, I don't think that's for me. But I didn't just want to be a bum, so I was like, I'm going to work. And so I got a full-time job, kind of a more adulty type job, and I hated it. My life was hell. It really sucked the life out of me. And the funny, bubbly person you see before you was a zombie day to day because I was working 40 hours and I felt like a slave. What ended up happening though, and it was kind of nice to have, my job allowed me to listen to music. I could put headphones in and listen to whatever I want as long as my work got done. So because I was probably very not self-confident, I didn't value myself very much, I was like, I bet girls would like me if I spoke French, because I remember seeing some celebrity who was bilingual and he spoke French, and all the girls on my Facebook feed were like, ah. So I was like, maybe girls will like me if I speak French. So I downloaded a bunch of French podcasts I think it was Coffee Break French, and I was using that while I was at work 8 hours a day to learn. And my buddy, I should preface this, I was booking concerts at the time. So I was a show promoter, concert booker. I helped book tours for bands. That was my job. Pretty cool job. And I love music and I like the music industry, but doing it as a 9 to 5 where if you're the booker, everyone hates you because the bands think you're ripping them off. The financiers or shareholders or whoever your company is thinks you're giving bands too much and you're not able to make rent. You almost feel like an enemy to both sides. And it sucked because I'm a big fan of music. So I met a guy at one of my concerts named Cody. I won't give out any more information because I don't like doxing people. Cody had anime tattoos. He was a nerd like me. He was a Christian like me. And he liked hardcore and metal music like I did. I don't know if that's hard for you guys to believe at all, but I was a pit warrior with the best of them at Warped Tour. I love smashing people at bits. So Cody picked up Japanese and was asking me for some tips from me trying to learn French, but I had no business giving any advice. And so we both started, language learning. Over time, me and Cody started a company together, a promotion company called Cairo Records, which is dumb because it wasn't a record company. It was a promotion company, but I like this, doesn't matter. And that turned into the Cairo Coalition, which then became our tour promoting company. And he said, hey, I bought tickets to go to Japan, and I'm going to go over there and learn and eat really good food and stuff. And I got to this weird point where I was looking at French, and I was doing all right with it, about as good as I did with Spanish in high school or sign language in middle school. And I never succeeded at any of those. I was never conversational. I couldn't do anything. And I was looking at French and I was like, I don't really watch any French movies. I don't really care about French celebrities. I can't stand French politics. French radio pisses me off. There's really no good French books that I like. I found out in so many words, and this isn't anything to insult French people, it's just sometimes you're not interested. I didn't really have a connection with French culture. I did, however, have a connection with Japanese. I liked anime from being a little kid. My cousin got me introduced into anime and manga and everything nerdy, Magic the Gathering, everything that you could imagine. And I liked, Ghibli movies, and I had like an anime night that I was doing with my friends in high school. It's what inspired the anime night live stream that we do here every Saturday. Like, I just had that connection over there. I also like Japanese music and all sorts of stuff. So I was like, why am I learning French if I don't really care about it? And my attention then transferred to Japanese, because no girl ever is like, oh, he's so fluent in Japanese. Like, it's not a sexy language. But it was something I was passionate about. I liked, Japan and that type of stuff. So I was like, I'll give this a month. I'll transition to Japanese for a month. If I don't like it, I can go back to French, right? And who would have guessed that 1 month transition would become all of this and would change my life forever? I spent, because my job was essentially 9 to 5 with an hour break, I would have 8 hours, and I would download like 50 podcasts from my very first learning site ever, which was JapanesePod101.com. And they don't sponsor me. They never have. Pretty sure Peter Gallant doesn't know I exist. And that's okay. But I started there, mostly because I could listen to it. That was really what it was. I wasn't necessarily studying the language so much as doing phraseology, kind of like Rosetta Stone, which is also why I don't consider my first year of language learning to be particularly appropriate to be called language learning, because I wasn't learning the language. I was just kind of learning, like, sore wa nan desu ka, or whatever. After that month of 8 hours a day, I made way deeper leaps and bounds in Japanese than I ever had before. I remember looking at Naruto and picking out the fire kanji, and I remember hearing anime, and yeah, I would only pull out like the des at the end of the sentence, but I actually pulled something out, and I was like, no way. I never even did that with French. Like, for some reason, I spent probably 6 months learning French that way. And not that I got into too much French, but I remember watching a French scene in a Quentin Tarantino movie and didn't get anything out of it. And I was like, there was something so that I felt so connected with Japanese. It just made sense to me. I was a musician. I hated math, but I like how things come together. And Japanese was very systematic, and I appreciate that in a language. And I don't know, there wasn't really an explanation for it. It's just some things in life just feel like they click. Maybe you guys have a significant other, and every time you try to date someone in your life, it always felt like there was friction and like you're trying to make things work, and then you found someone and it was just like, it just felt like it was supposed to be like that. I haven't had that with a person yet, but I did have that with a language. And from that moment on, I was like, okay, so this is what I need. So I was a month into learning Japanese. I went home, I sold everything that wasn't bolted to the floor. In fact, I still only sleep on a mattress. I have no bed frame. And sold everything that wasn't an instrument or attached to the floor, and bought a round trip to Japan for a month. Now, I picked Fukuoka specifically because there was a YouTuber at the time, and she still makes videos, but I was just saying at the time she was really popular. Her name's Michaela, and I've gotten the chance to meet her a couple times, and she's very, very kind. Her boyfriend's amazing. She's still a very, very good person. And I'll actually leave a link. I'm sure you guys, if you had found me, you found her 1,000 times over, but I'll leave a link in the description just in case there's one of you who's never heard of her. She's very helpful, very honest, and she lived, I don't know if she still does, but at the time she lived in Fukuoka, and she was going to immersion school. And there was videos on it. So I was like, well, if I'm going to go to Japan, and I think I had like an extra $1,000 in my account from just selling crap, like selling clothes and putting stuff on eBay, like used headphones for $1, just anything I could do. And I was like, why not? Like, if I'm already going to go there, let's try this. Now, flashback to being in Japan. I'm staying at a church because they were letting me sleep in essentially a closet space for free. And I was going to Genki during the days. And it completely changed the game for me because I never had structured language learning. up until this point was just hearing a phrase and repeating it, hearing a phrase and repeating it, and trying to attach meaning to what that was. Because that was the Japanese pod way. And when I went there and they had, they were teaching people about SRS systems. They were teaching people grammatical formulas so you could actually recreate your own sentences, and teaching you kanji. And, you would talk to students, and students would tell you things like, oh yeah, have you ever read Remembering the Kanji? And it was such a good environment to learn, and for someone who's very serious like I was, to be able to go into it. So I spent a month there doing, again, 4 hours in class, about 4 hours out of class. It was my first time ever leaving the country, and I was by myself. It made my parents worry sick, and I feel bad for it to this day. But I came home changed, and I'm sure you could ask anyone that Chad came home a different person, for better or for worse. And from that moment on, I was like, okay, this is it. And I got 2 jobs. I was working about 80 hours a week, plus, helping my church and running my own stuff. And I was using that money, and immediately I saved up every penny that I had, because I was still living at home, and bought another ticket. I was there again in the fall. I went in the spring for a month, and then I was home for maybe 2 weeks, got my first paycheck. And then told my mom, hey, I'm going back to Japan in the fall. And I was doing that for about 2 years, I think. So I had 4 trips under my belt, and was studying like crazy. And I kept up all the stuff I was doing at Genki at home. I was doing the same pace, the same route, just tearing through books. And I ended up going, well, maybe I need something more than this. And at that same time, Genki wrote me saying, hey, Chad, we just want to let you know. And at this time, I was good friends with the people at the staff. And sorry, I hit my cable. Good friends with the staff, good friends with a lot of the ex-students that are there. Because I'm going there like twice a year and seeing people. So they said, hey, we have this 1-year thing coming up. If you're kind of tired of these 1-month trips, this is what you could do. And in order to be in the first class, I'd have to raise like 10 grand in the bank in, I think it was 9 months. And I did it, and I applied, and I got in. A lot of people along the journey, I'm sure, know that. I was in the first graduating class of the 1-year students. Again, for better or for worse, there's good and bad things. That's a whole separate video. I'm not here to complain, but that's what led me to live there for, I think it was 9 months at that time. And you might be saying, Chad, this was a 1-year program. What do you mean 9 months? This is also why I am super hesitant to talk about stuff like AJAT and MIA. Not that they're bad programs. They obviously work. If you talk to anyone who's done them for like 4 or 5 years, those guys are insane in Japanese, and I look up to them, and I'm sure a lot of you guys look up to them. But I was doing 10-hour days. I was doing 4 hours in class. The class was too slow, so I had to do another 4 hours of fresh learning. Then I had to use it, so I had to go out and hang out with my friends and we'd skateboard. And I also worked because I had to eat. So I was working under the table at a Japanese tattoo shop that paid in cash, no checks. They don't want a paper trail. And I was doing that and then skating with my friends. So from 5 or 6 a.m. till midnight or 1, I was completely immersed and kind of forgetting English after about 6 months of that. But coming with that, I was in a relationship that was failing because of this and many other things. I had my cousin that introduced me to anime and Japanese and nerd stuff passed away. He was very young. He was in his 30s, and he passed away while I was over there. And because I had missed so many days of school because I was making myself sick from stress, I couldn't get out of bed. I was throwing up everywhere. I wasn't eating, which you guys could probably see in those videos. I look kind of like a skeleton. That it wasn't good, and I'm not saying you guys should do that, but that's what happens when you do 10-hour study days plus work and do that for months and months and never take care of yourself. That's kind of what happens. I couldn't go back to the funeral because I would forfeit my visa. I missed so much school that if I missed another, I think it was 2 or 3 days, which is what it would just take me in transit to get home and then do the funeral, I wouldn't be able to get back in on my visa. I'd have to forfeit. And so I called my mom. My mom called me, and I was crying and just going, this is such a big opportunity. And I was hearing myself just going, you're talking about how good this opportunity is and how, you've worked so hard and you promised you wouldn't come home till you're fluent. I'm telling my mom this as my cousin passed away, my best friend as a kid. And I hung up the phone and immediately was like, I don't think this is it. I stayed up super late that night. I woke up the next morning. And I was like, I didn't study all that night. I was just looking at the ceiling. And, the sun came up, and I even remember what my clock said. It was 5:17. The sun was coming up. And I was like, I had to really think about it. And I had to be honest with myself, which is something I hadn't been to that point. I was always like pushing my emotions off, just study. You can cry later, study. You can think about this when you graduate, study. And I I got out of bed and went to the window with my little instant coffee. And I was like, I feel like if I keep going down this path and finish school, I don't know if I'll be fluent or not, but I'll probably be dead. I'll probably not make it. I'll probably jump off a bridge. I was that emotionally destitute. And, I call my mom. I'm like, hey, I probably need to come home because I'm not in a good space. And she's like, okay. So I got my flight, and I left Japan. And I'm sure a lot of you guys remember that period too. I've made tons of videos about it. I just wasn't in a good spot. I came home. I completely stopped Japanese for the first time in 3 years, and stopped it for a month and a half. And I got help. I got into outpatient depression and suicide treatment, which completely changed my life. It gave me the tools I needed to be able to exist. I was going to therapy every day. Had to call her every night, my therapist, otherwise bad things. She forced me to go to the gym, which is what made me get into rugby and get into playing softball and working out every single day, twice a day, and running and all the stuff that's good for you emotionally. It made me completely clean up my diet. So my diet has been for years very, very good. It also helped me set healthy goals, healthy boundaries. How do I find time for me? When is it okay to be self-sacrificial to help people, and when is it not? And, all the stuff that was really unhealthy about me doing 10-hour study days for years, right? The thing I was realizing was that I was studying. And Japanese, to me, it felt like I was in the office with someone. And it was like a friend from the office, but you don't ever really hang out or talk to each other, but you're friends at work. And I never realized that I'd never taken Japanese out drinking. We never went to a party. I never invited him back to my place or like, hey, let's go skate. If Japanese was a person, I wasn't friends with it. It was a office buddy. And I think that was my first problem. After I got healthy, after I got better, and, actually thought of myself as someone worth taking care of. Because I never looked at myself in the mirror and was like, you know what, you personally are worth taking care of. I wasn't able to do that to other people. I wasn't able to do it to myself. And it changed the way that I studied Japanese, which currently is, I'm back to my 10-word-a-day schedule. I got accepted into grad school, so I can't, even if I want to, I can't go as hard as I want because, yeah, I might have time in the day to go super hard, but then I don't have time to take care of my number one supporter, which is me. My mom would argue that, but if I die, I don't get to accomplish my goals and do the things I want. So you got to have time to take care of yourself. Still learning kanji, still reading Japanese a ton, still listening to Japanese. I text my Japanese friends every day. I Skype with a lot of my Japanese friends every night. But I'm just not killing myself. And I think that's important for a lot of you guys to know. I'm still making progress in the language. I know out there you might be thinking, well, if I don't go balls deep, I'll never make it. Or if I don't go balls deep and I'm not doing this every day and just living Japanese's life all day, I'll never get there. And I want you to know, I studied the earliest translations of the Japanese Bible. I'm in graduate school for languages and for translations. These dudes did not do that, and they still got fluent. It took them 10 years, 11 years. They didn't do it in 2, but they got there, and they did it a lot more healthily than I'm sure a lot of people who are doing what I did for long term are doing. Not saying you can't do it healthily, but if you also have to work, if you have to go to school, if you have to have friends, so you have a support system, an emotional system to support you, if you have to go to therapy, it's hard to do 10 hours a day and still have time at the end to take care of yourself. So that's why when people ask me, what are your opinions on this? I leave that to those guys. That's not my life anymore. I take care of my number one, and then I study. And the nice thing about it is, because I work on me, it freed my mind from this kind of crunch constraint. I can help other people now too. I can help you guys better and more heartfully and put my soul into this. The Wicked Miscreant podcast, the thing I'm doing with my friends, all of my friends are super creative and amazing guys. They are so funny and talented. But they were like me. They felt like they couldn't get traction. They couldn't spin their wheels. And when you're clear-minded, you're able to develop things, and you're able to set routes and plans and systems that help you do things. And that's why I started the Wicked Miscreant podcast with them, because I'm like, guys, here, I'll do the work. I'll get this venue together. All we have to do is be funny. And I like to think that I'm helping them by, taking care of myself. I'm able to take care of others better. So yeah, I guess kind of long story short, I like to help people because I want to give people what I wasn't able to give myself. And then when I found a way to give it to myself, I can now do it better than I ever have been. My Japanese is better than it's ever been, although my listening's not quite as good as it was when I was there every single day, all day. But I'm still pretty good, and I make progress on every test I do, every practice test, every practice exam. I'm getting better. All my flashcards, I'm seeing them less and less because I'm getting correct answers more and more. I am incredibly proud of where I'm at. And if you guys would like to know maybe more about exactly where I'm at, like my number of words and phrases I know, my technique for studying, I do have a lot of videos on that, but if you ask specifically, maybe I'll make a video about it later. I don't know, but it's up to you guys. So yeah, that gives you your journey from, 2014 Chad to 2019 Chad. I'm still going forward, we're still learning, I'm still helping, and I'm here for you. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or compliments, leave them in the comment box down below. I do personally read all of them. If you like this video, if you like me, if you want to support my channel, a subscription is free. You just hit the subscribe button and it helps me tremendously, helps the channel grow, and you get 2 videos every week. One like this, and then a Saturday live stream called Anime Night. You can also check out the Wicked Miscreant podcast and support those fools, because they deserve it, they work hard, they're very funny, and I personally am their biggest fan. Alright, I'm sure this is going to be super long, so I'll just leave it alone there. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a wonderful week. Your mom probably misses you, so maybe call her. If you have a friend, text them, tell them you love them, tell them how important they are to you. If you are balls to the walls with anything, maybe take a moment, meditate for 5 minutes. Step outside, look at the birds. Just breathe. Everything's going to be okay. You're going to be fluent. Can't tell you how long, but you'll get there. Everything's cool. Alright, I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Crawling around, searching for higher ground. Can't see in front of me, my enemies. I've tried every possibility, ability to know if I can bleed. If that's what you wanted, you won't get it tonight. 'Cause I